long time ago, back in the 8th or 9th century. Have any of you seen the bus loads of people with Viking hats screaming at innocent bystanders? Yeah? And that is because of our Viking origins. Now, when the Vikings arrived to the area that we know as Dublin, way back then, they came up the River Liffey, okay? They took a left turn on the River Poddle, which no longer runs above ground. But they took a left turn there and they found a large deep pool right about the area where Dublin Castle is today. The local people who lived in this area called that pool Dove Linn, which in Irish means black pool. And that's kind of where the settlement grew into a town, into a city that we know as Dublin today. As I say though, all of that was a long, long time ago. Here in the museum, we kind of scoot a good bit forward from that. We always elect to start our story of Dublin in the year 1776. Now I know there are a few Americans in the room, that's an important year for you guys. But the reason that we start in that year is because 1776 was the year that this house was built. So just over 240 years old, this house. We're really lucky, it's a great example of Georgian architecture. All the fireplaces throughout are actually original. So I think you'll agree, looking pretty good for her age, this house. So if we scoot back to there to start our story. Back then in 1776, Ireland was of course part of the United Kingdom. We were a British colony. Let's call it a bad hangover effect of that period. That we Irish sometimes fall into the bad habit of complaining about the English. We've been known to do it from time to time. We kind of like to say here that the English gave us nothing. Absolutely nothing. When you start in a house like this, though, really, it's kind of difficult to believe that that's 100% true. Especially this house right here, because the beautiful St. Stephen's Green across the road kind of grabs your attention. That park was built around the same time as these houses themselves. And there are other leftovers here in Ireland, like our legal system, our postal system, of course the English language. There's a Marks and Spencer's on Grafton Street, thank you guys. Most important though, right, these days is the Georgian architecture. Dublin is now famous for it. It's finally been recognised as what it is, a really great architectural heritage. And those Georgian doors really have become an attraction in themselves. Unfortunately, a little while after this house itself was built, in the year 1800, there was a thing passed here called the Act of Union. Now what that did was it moved the Irish government, which had been based here in Dublin, over to London. It meant there was no longer a government on the island here, but if you guys think of that from Dublin's perspective at this time, it meant that Dublin was no longer the second city of the British Empire, it was no longer a capital city. It lost a little bit of its lustre, a bit of its flair at that time, and some of the aristocracy kind of followed the power of Parliament over to London. So the city saw a little bit of a slump as a result. Another kind of thing though that the Act of Union meant was that in a political sense anyway, Ireland and Britain were now as close as they ever had been. So that is the context that leads me to the first object in the room, which is over here, towering above us all. Does anybody know who that is up on top there?
No.
Does, yeah? Go on, you can shout out if you know the answer. Nelson, yes, exactly. This is Admiral Horatio Nelson, a very famous, highly decorated British naval officer. In the year 1805, he had an incredible victory at the Battle of Trafalgar against the French, sorry to you guys in the middle here. But in order to celebrate this great victory, as it was for us on this side, Dubliners decided to put him on top of this pillar which stood on O'Connell Street. Now, as I said, the city was kind of suffering a bit of a slump. The corporation, the council here in the city at this time, were really, really eager to make a statement that the city was still relevant, it was still a grand city, and big projects like this monument would have been part of that attempt. The proposal for this pillar was put through just 10 days after the victory itself, so really kind of right on the money to make that statement. It does mean at speed that although there is a similar monument standing in London in Trafalgar Square, the one in Dublin was actually built first, just about. Now, when it was built, it was the tallest structure here in Dublin city centre. He commanded a great view over the entire city. For a small fee, you could actually go inside, climb up to the top, and there was a viewing platform up on top there as well. Unfortunately, this new position, shall we call it, that a British naval officer had been given in the centre of Dublin City and raised up on such a high pedestal, not everybody here in the city was absolutely delighted to see it. A bit likely. As we move in next door, we'll discover a little bit later in the century what happened to poor old Nelson. So for now, please just remember him. I'll come back to him in the next room.